How's it going, everybody? Doing a kind of quick book gum chewing book pickup vid, and a quick reading from it. I'm excited to read this book. I saw it on Amazon. Picked it up. It came. I'm filming this on Thursday. Like, I filmed some other videos, so they're kind of all over the place. But the book I got is Strange Tales from Japan. 99 Chilling Stories of Yokai, Ghosts, Demons, and the Supernatural. Collected and retold by, I'm not going to be able to say this person's first name, Kaisuke Nishimoto. Translated by William Scott Wilson. Just got a bunch of stuff in it here. Book 1 is Traditional Tales. Spirits and Ghosts, Demons and Wolves, Kappas, Tanuki and Foxes, Rivers and Lakes, Miraculous Strength, Pure Heart, Strong Samurai, Unfortunate People. Book 2 are the Strange Tales. Man-eating demons and Yamanba, the people who were cursed. Living heads and skeletons, ghosts, requests, people who were spared. Apparitions in water, shape-shifting cats, being deceived by foxes, friendly ghosts. Snakes, wild boars, and crabs. There's also pictures in here as well. There's a couple parts that will have some pictures in here. And stuff. Alright, so I'm just gonna pick. That's actually a nice tapping sound. I'm gonna pick a few out of here, maybe like 2, and just read them. I want to go to the book 2. Okay, here's one. Let's see how long this is. It's very short. This one is the woman who disappeared behind a tree. A long time ago, there were 3 ladies who were employed in the palace of the emperor. The 3 got along wonderfully well, and wherever they went together. One night when the moon was shining brilliantly, the 3 ladies were taking a pleasant walk in the direction of the palace when they came to a large pine tree. "Excuse me," they heard a voice say. "I'd like to talk to you for a moment." A man appeared from behind the tree and beckoned to one of the ladies. "What do you want?" the lady asked, and she ran around to the other side of the pine tree. The other 2 ladies, however, became concerned when their friend did not reappear, even though they waited a long time. "What do you suppose has happened?" One of them said anxiously. "Do you think she was carried off by that man?" replied the other with a worried look. 2 ladies became quite uneasy and went around to the back of the tree, but the man and the woman were not there. Where could they have gone, they both wondered. As the 2 looked around the circumference of the tree, something white fell from above. "What's this?" one of them asked. The 2 bent down and picked up the white object. Instantly they screamed and threw down, for this something was the torn-off arm of a woman. Someone come quickly," one cried, and they both ran to the palace guard, stumbling as they went. "Murder!" screamed the other lady, and with this the two fainted dead away. All the guards came running out of the palace, their swords drawn. They approached the pine tree. They found only parts of a woman's hands and feet scattered about, and no sign of her body, or even a heart or liver. Interesting that they would choose heart and liver. Soon the people in the palace heard the disturbance and gathered at the pine tree. "What kind of person would have done this?" one asked incredulously, I hate that word, incredulously. I still spelled it wrong. "What a horrible thing to have done," another offered. Startled and scared. They looked at each other and discussed the matter at length. Finally, an old man came out from among them with a knowing look. You know, he started a long, long time ago. A woman was eaten under this very tree. People said it was the act of a man-eating demon, a demon that takes human shape and calls women to him. When they heard this, everyone shivered. If a woman goes to some lonely place, they whispered one to another. She should not go off with some stranger, even if he asks her to. And with this, they all went back to their rooms. Just ends like that. This is obviously very similar to like the Scary Story books, except this is much bigger. It's a much larger, longer book. I just want to find one more short one. Alright, I'm going to do long black hair. Long ago in the ancient province of Iwaki, there was a tofu seller who lived in the town of Kuri. This tofu seller had an only daughter, a beautiful young woman by the name of Fuku. I'm saying a lot of these wrong, I'm sure. Now on New Year's Day of her 17th year, Ofuku tied up her long black hair, put on a holiday kimono, and went off to a friend's house for the day's amusements. When she arrived, there were already a number of other young ladies there, happily playing the New Year card games. Ofuku joined them right away, eating holiday delicacies, drinking sake, and amusing herself, so that she forgot all about the time. Ordinarily, Ofuku rarely drank sake, but by evening she was completely drunk. Finally, tottering home, she crawled under the kotatsu, and that tells you what it is. Some of these things will tell you at the bottom. A kotatsu is a low table with a heater underneath and covered by a quilt. Traditionally, the heater was filled with charcoal or some other fuel, but nowadays an electric heat unit is used. So you're learning some stuff here as well. Alright, so she crawled under the kotatsu without changing out of her kimono and fell asleep. The sleeve of her kimono, however, soon caught fire from the flame beneath the kotatsu, and the fire began to spread. In her drunken sleep, Ofuku was unconscious and completely unaware of the danger she was in. Suddenly, she jumped up with a scream, for not only was her kimono now in flames, but also her long black hair. Somebody help, she cried out. Ofuku ran wildly about the room as though she had lost her mind, but there was nothing she could do. In total panic, she bolted out of the house and into the garden and leapt into the pond. The people of the household hurried to where she was, but by this time her entire body had been terribly burned, and the skin of her once beautiful face was peeled in strips, revealing peach-colored flesh beneath. A doctor was summoned immediately, and he treated her as well as he could. There was not much he could do. The next morning, Ofuku's friends heard about the calamity and came to visit her one after another. When they saw that her entire body was wrapped in bandage, however, they were lost at words and hardly knew how to comfort her. I admit sometimes chewing the gum is like interfering with my ability to speak, to read the words properly. After a while, Ofuku opened her eyes and glanced at the long black hair of the friend sitting next to her pillow. How nice, she muttered. You have such beautiful hair. And she closed her eyes again as tears ran down her cheeks. What are you saying? One of her friends replied. After you've recovered from your burns, you'll have beautiful hair, just as you did before. No, Ofuku said in a weak voice, shuddering her eyes tightly. I'm not going to live for long. Don't say such a thing, the friend next to her said quickly. Be positive and you will get well soon. What's a little burn? Another added, trying to cheer her up. That's not going to cheer anybody up. But Ofuku only spoke in a delirium, repeating over and over that she was going to die. Gradually, her friends began to feel uncomfortable, and one by one returned to their homes. After that, no one came to ask after her in 2 or 3 days. The story of Ofuku's misfortune had circulated around the town and was finally repeated to the wife of the thought as she worked away in the kitchen she was so pretty, and she used to come to the temple quite often. Just then she heard the footsteps of someone coming from the direction of the temple gate. The footsteps stopped in front of the main hall, as though someone was praying to the Buddha there. Well, my husband must have come back, she said to herself. With that thought in mind, the priest's wife began washing some rice in preparation to cook a meal when the kitchen door opened, and there stood Ofuku. My goodness, it's Ofuku, the woman stammered in surprise, looking the girl over from head to toe. Ofuku's long black hair was tied up and beautifully arranged. She wore a tiny kimono, and her skin did not seem to be burned at all. I heard that you've been burned, the woman said, trying to compose herself. Yes, I was, Ofuku replied with a polite laugh, but I've completely recovered. This is quite strange, the priest's wife mused, shaking her head in disbelief. Just a while ago I heard that she was close to death. Nevertheless, here was Ofuku, right before her eyes, looking like a healthy young woman. That's wonderful, the priest's wife said. I'm going to make some tea. So why don't you go and wait in the sitting room? Thank you, I will, came Ofuku's reply in her usual cheerful way. Rumors, muttered the priest's wife. You can't rely on them at all. Having prepared the tea, the priest's wife went to the sitting room, but Ofuku was nowhere to be seen. That's strange, she pondered. I wonder where she went. Putting down the tea, she searched here and there around the temple, but found no one. She then returned to the sitting room and waited for a while, but Ofuku did not come back. As she waited there, the priest's wife began to feel a strange sensation. Could that have been Ofuku's ghost? She thought. In the same instant, a cold shiver went up and down her body. Yeah, the gum, absolutely. It fucks me up. Just at that moment, someone from the town ran up to the temple. The tofu seller's daughter just passed away. He yelled, "They're going to have a wake, so I've come for the priest." What? The priest's wife shouted involuntarily, turning completely pale. Well, please let the priest know, the man replied. Someone shocked at the woman's expression. He then quickly left the temple. The following day, a funeral was conducted, and Ofuku's corpse was buried in a grave behind the Kuri-dera. That night, one of Ofuku's friends was talking at home with her mother about Ofuku's sad story, when suddenly she felt a cold breeze come through the room. In that instant, the string that tied up her long black hair was somehow cut, and her hair fell in front of her, just like a ghost. That's dreadful, her mother exclaimed, and nervously bound her daughter's hair up from her face. Mother, I'm afraid, the daughter cried, holding on to her mother as they both began to tremble. Much later that night, the priest and his wife heard a terrifying scream and quickly jumped up and out of their bedding. Someone, it seemed, was running around noisily inside the main hall. Two of them hurried over to the main hall and nervously peeped inside. And there was Ofuku, who was supposed to be buried in her grave, screaming and running around inside the hall. She had just lost her wits. The priest and his wife were so frightened that they could do nothing but squat down in a heap right where they were and yell hoarsely for help. After a moment, however, the priest got a hold on himself and began to intone a sutra for all he was worth. With that, Ofuku quickly calmed down and at some point disappeared altogether. Oh, how frightening, the priest's wife whispered in a still shaky voice. That was Ofuku's ghost for sure. For 7 days after that, Ofuku's ghost would loosen her friend's long black hair and run around inside the main hall, and each time this occurred, the priest would intone the sutra with all his heart. Thanks to that, on the evening of the 8th day, the young lady's hair was no longer disturbed, and Ofuku's ghost no longer appeared. But even today, you can see that a small piece of the railing on a Buddhist altar was broken when Ofuku's ghost ran into it in her panic and fear. Okay, so is that another little thing? Number 5, 7 days is the period that some Buddhists believe is required for a person's soul to transmigrate. I kind of like that they have the little things there. Kind of if you don't know what's going on. Alright, so that's 2 things. I'm actually kind of excited to read this. And if you guys want to hear me read more of this, let me know in the comments and I will. But yeah, that's just a quick book, big book up. I guess it ended up being 15 minutes. Strange Tales from Japan. It